The year is 1935, and the sound of the asylum is a sound that never stops. It is a cacophony of human misery, a relentless, throat-shredding scream that echoes down tiled hallways, smelling of stale urine, heavy bleach, and despair. In these overcrowded wards, men and women are packed like livestock, stripping off their clothes, smearing excrement on the walls, and fighting demons that no one else can see. There is no therapy here. There is only containment, the straitjacket, the padded cell, the ice bath. This is the end of the line for the human soul, a place where the mind goes to die, and the doctors are little more than jailers. But amidst this hopeless purgatory, one man refuses to accept the status quo. Egas Moniz, a 61-year-old Portuguese neurologist with gout-gnarled hands and an ambition that burns brighter than the hospital lights, believes he can solve the riddle of the broken brain. He is a man of science, yes, but he is also a man of immense ego, hungry for a legacy that will outlast him. He travels to London for a neurology conference, seeking an answer, and he finds it in the most unlikely of places, a chimpanzee named Becky. The researchers present their findings. Becky was once prone to violent tantrums, easily frustrated and aggressive, but after they surgically severed the connections in her frontal lobes, the rage evaporated. She became docile, calm, indifferent to the frustrations that once consumed her. The audience is polite, interested in the animal behavior, but Moniz is transfixed. He isn't looking at a chimpanzee, he is looking at a solution for the screaming thousands back in Lisbon. He stands up and asks the question that will haunt medicine for the next 3 decades. If this works on a chimpanzee, why not try it on a human? The room shifts uncomfortably, but Moniz is already gone. Back in Portugal, the timeline accelerates. He cannot perform the surgery himself due to his deformed hands, so he guides a neurosurgeon, Almeida Lima, through the procedure. They drill holes into the skull of a patient, a woman plagued by paranoia and anxiety. They inject alcohol to kill the white matter, the wiring that connects the emotional centers to the reasoning centers. Later, they switch to a wire loop, a leucotome, to physically core out the brain tissue. It is brutal, blind surgery. They are destroying healthy tissue on a hunch. And yet, when the bandages come off, the screaming stops. The patient sits quietly. The paranoia is gone. Is she cured? She is certainly easier to manage. She is quieter. For a medical community drowning in the chaos of the asylum, this is a miracle. The news spreads across the Atlantic, reaching the ears of Walter Freeman, an American neurologist with the showmanship of a circus ringmaster and a disdain for the tediousness of the drill. He reads Moniz's papers with a feverish intensity. He sees the brilliance, but he also sees the flaw. Drilling into the skull requires a surgeon, an operating room, scrub nurses, and time. Freeman doesn't want surgery. He wants a revolution. He wants to bring this cure out of the operating theater and into the office, and he is already imagining a way to bypass the skull entirely. January 17th, 1946, Washington, D.C. The air in Walter Freeman's office is thick with a strange, frantic energy. He is not a surgeon. He has no certification to cut into a human body, but he is a man possessed by a vision of efficiency, and he has grown tired of the neurosurgeons who tell him to slow down, to be careful, to wait. The drill is an obstacle. The skull is a barrier. He needs a shortcut to the brain, a path of least resistance. He looks at the human skull on his desk, tracing the anatomy. He knows the bone behind the eye socket is paper thin, a fragile gateway to the frontal lobes. Freeman goes home. He walks into his kitchen. He isn't looking for food. He is looking for a tool. He rummages through the drawers, the clatter of silverware filling the silence of his house. His hand closes around a handle. It is an ice pick. Specifically, a U-line No. 2 ice pick with a gold ring around the handle, used for chipping blocks of ice for cocktails. He weighs it in his palm. It is solid, sharp, and terrifyingly simple. He grabs a carpenter's hammer from his toolbox. He heads to the morgue to practice. He drives the pick through the eye sockets of cadavers, feeling the sickening pop as the metal breaches the bone and enters the brain. He swirls it around, severing the nerve fibers. It takes seconds. No drill, no blood, no scars. Now he stands over Sally Ellen Ionesco. She is 29 years old, a housewife and mother who is profoundly depressed and anxious. She is not a monster, she is a woman overwhelmed by life. Freeman has convinced her family that this is a minor procedure, a pinprick that will reset her mind. He does not use anesthesia. He uses electroshock to induce a grand mal seizure, rendering her unconscious. The room is silent. Freeman lifts the upper eyelid of her left eye. He places the point of the ice pick, the actual ice pick from his kitchen, sterilized but unchanged, against the tear duct, angling it parallel to the nose. He raises the hammer. This is the moment. The line between healer and butcher dissolves. He strikes. Crack. The sound of the bone breaking is distinct, a wet crunch that makes the observing nurses flinch. Freeman does not hesitate. He drives the instrument deeper into the frontal lobe. Then, with a flick of his wrist, he swings the handle outward, the tip inside the brain sweeping across the white matter like a windshield wiper. He pulls it out. He moves to the right eye. Crack. Sweep. It is over in 10 minutes. Sally Ellen wakes up with 2 black eyes, looking as if she has gone 10 rounds in a boxing ring. But she is smiling. She remembers nothing. The crushing anxiety is gone, replaced by a vacuous, childlike demeanor. Freeman is ecstatic. He has done it. He has turned brain surgery into an office visit. Emboldened by this success and fueled by the 1949 Nobel Prize awarded to Moniz, which Freeman views as a validation of the entire field, he decides to take his show on the road. He buys a station wagon, dubs it the Lobomobile, and begins a cross-country tour, performing lobotomies in motel rooms and state hospitals, sometimes doing 25 a day, treating the human brain with the casual speed of an assembly line worker. The miracle spreads like a contagion. It moves faster than the clinical trials, faster than the ethical debates, faster than the horror can catch up to the hope. By the early 1950s, the ice pick lobotomy has become the gold standard for psychiatric care in America. The numbers spiral out of control. 50,000 people, 50,000 lives interrupted by a piece of steel. The criteria for the surgery begin to slip. It is no longer just for the violently schizophrenic or the hopelessly suicidal. It becomes a tool for social control. Husbands bring in wives who are moody or opinionated. Parents bring in children who are rebellious or difficult to manage. The asylum wards are quiet now, but it is the quiet of a graveyard. Patients sit in rows, staring at walls, their personalities flattened, their sparks extinguished. They are not cured, they are hollowed out. They have been turned into compliant ghosts, easier to feed, easier to clothe, and easier to ignore. The most tragic symbol of this epidemic is a young woman named Rosemary Kennedy. The sister of a future president, she is vibrant, slightly slower than her high-achieving siblings, and prone to mood swings. Her father, Joe Kennedy, worried that her behavior might embarrass the family's political ambitions, consults Freeman. Rosemary is 23. She is awake for the procedure. Freeman asks her to recite poems and sing songs as he cuts into her brain. He keeps cutting until she stops speaking, until she stops singing, until she is gone. The vibrant young woman is replaced by an infant in an adult's body, incontinent and unable to speak, hidden away in an institution for the rest of her life, a dark secret buried beneath the Camelot legacy. But the machine keeps grinding. Freeman performs lobotomies with 2 ice picks at once, one in each hand, showing off for the cameras. He throws the picks like darts into the surgical tray. It is a spectacle of hubris. The end only comes in the mid-1950s, not with a bang of moral outrage, but with the rattle of a pill bottle. Thorazine hits the market, the first antipsychotic drug. It is a chemical lobotomy, achieving the calm without the knife. Suddenly, the brutality of the ice pick is laid bare. The medical community wakes up from its trance. The lobotomobile is parked. Freeman is ostracized, dying in obscurity while still defending his legacy. We are left with the wreckage, a Nobel Prize that technically still stands, an unrevoked honor for a procedure that mutilated thousands. We look back at this era not just as a failure of science, but as a failure of humanity. It is a terrifying reminder of what happens when the desperate need for a cure blinds us to the sanctity of the person. 50,000 people walked into a doctor's office seeking relief and left with their souls severed, victims of a time when we tried to fix the mind by breaking the brain. The ice pick remains a rusted artifact of our hubris, a sharp, cold warning that the road to hell is paved with the very best of intentions.